Welcome to the Charleston Real Estate Connection Podcast, connecting and reconnecting you with all things Charleston. I am your host, Nia Joy, your Golden Realtor, licensed in the state of South Carolina. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 17th episode of the Charleston Real Estate Connection Podcast. Hey, Adam.
Hello, everybody.
I have with us Adam Richardson of PGR Home Inspections.
That's me. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for joining me. And for all of our listeners, you can download this podcast on anywhere you enjoy your favorite podcasts. I personally like iTunes and SoundCloud, but do your thing. Please download us and share us and leave a review about today's episode and any other episodes. So, to my audience, I want to let you know, Adam is one of my preferred, he is my number one preferred vendor for home inspections. I actually met Adam. Adam, I met you at a home inspection through one of my other clients, actually, when I first got into business. I don't know if you remember that. It's a beautiful day in Mount Pleasant.
Yes, I do remember that.
You remember? You remember?
Yeah, it was a little. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't your normal way that I usually meet. Realtors that I end up doing business with. So, but yeah, I mean, met you, and then well, tell the story. You probably remember more details than I did. How long ago was that? About a year and a half ago, maybe.
It's been 2 years, Adam.
Has it been that long? Wow.
2 years.
Time flies.
We've been together 2 years doing this thing. It's been awesome. You've done pretty much majority of the homes that I sold. You've done inspections on. You've even done like at least one kind of pre-inspection, I think, as well, which was helpful for my sellers.
Actually, no. One stat I will share. So, my CRM, I have stats where I can see all of the realtors that I've done work with, and you're actually at the top of the list with most transactions. So that's pretty cool, right?
Look at that. Yes. And I've been sending my friends too. So, I'm excited. And I will say, I must admit, my disclaimer is I've worked with about 5 home inspectors. I've worked with one in Columbia, one kind of in between Columbia and Charleston, and then of course you, and a couple other ones in Charleston. Yeah, that's 5. And the reason why I enjoy working with you the most, nothing against my other ones, but the way we met was an integral part of our relationship, our work relationship, because this particular house that my client was interested in, and he really wanted that house, was just the care that you took when you went in the house. I mean, you're like one of the rare inspectors that will go under the house. I mean, of course, it may cost a little more, but you will go under a house if it's safe enough for you to go in there, and you will just be open and honest. And if this were my house, and I love that about you. That's how you treat it.
Yep. I mean, that's one thing that I truly take pride on is just being honest. One of my main goals is just literally just to tell the story of the house. Don't try to sugarcoat anything, but also don't try to be an alarmist and just kind of blow things out of proportion.
Right.
But mainly providing reports that I would want to receive if I was, on the other end of the transaction, if I was the buyer.
Yes.
That's the way that I report. So that's the way I believe everyone should do it. Fortunately, that's not always the case. So.
Not always the case. And the way your reports come out, I mean, we can talk more about this later, but I do like the way how the reports come out, and the awesome tool that you have that we realtors love that repair addendum feature where we can create a repair addendum and not have to send somebody the entire report. So that's pretty cool. But I know we kind of just got into a warm conversation, but I've got to tell everybody, I got to ask, Adam, what's your connection to Charleston?
Oddly enough, I really don't have any connection to Charleston other than, obviously I live here now.
Yeah, tell us about that. How that come about?
So I'm originally, me and my wife, and at the time my son was 2, he's almost 5 now. We moved down here From Ohio, like the running joke that everybody else that lives here is from Ohio. So I am from Ohio, unfortunately, everybody. Grew up there my entire life, but it got to the point where my wife and I, we was just like, we don't want to live here anymore. We're just tired of the cold weather. So that was literally the main driving force to just get out of Ohio. Funny enough, neither of us had ever even visited Charleston prior to moving.
No.
Um, at the time, my wife worked for the VA, and um, she put out literally 70 applications up and down the East Coast,
Uh-huh.
and she landed the job that she was truly seeking out to get here at the Charleston VA downtown. And I told her that, regardless of where we move, I'm just going to start my own business, and that's what we're going to do. And
Wow.
honestly, it's been like just an ultimate blessing to have, I truly feel it, to have landed where we've landed, because one, the Charleston market is, as we all know, just super, super hot. Even now in the midst of a pandemic, it's still really hot.
Yeah.
But so for somebody that's one, had never started his own business before, so that was a giant learning process, to come into a market that's really, really booming, and,
Yeah.
that really, really helped me. But, till this day, it's almost been 3 years since we've moved here, and I'll still send text messages to my wife saying, this place is just beautiful. We're incredibly blessed to be where we are, so we're not taking it for granted. So,
Yes. Yes.
pretty awesome.
That
Cool.
is. That is pretty awesome.
We don't have any family here. Didn't have any friends that lived here, prior to moving. So now we have 2 kids, and so it's been an interesting situation since we
You
moved.
guys have grown. You've grown as a family. Uh, your wife works here now, and you started an awesome business. So that's good. I mean, I can only imagine like what that must be like. Coming to a new place, you got to shake a lot of hands, and you got to give out a lot of your contact information.
A lot less handshaking these days, but yes.
Well, yes, not now. Speaking of which, that's pretty much how we're doing things these days, elbow
Right.
bumps and that sort of thing. Um, so wow, so you moved here. You're from Ohio, and it's like you. And if people don't know this, Ohio is one of the #1 places that people transplant from.
Yeah. I don't, Ohio is a great state. It's got so many things going for it, but it's just cold, and
It's cold. That's what they
yep,
say.
I'm tired of it. I'd rather sweat my butt off and freeze my butt off. So, and and we're much closer to water, so that helps too. So.
There you go. There you go. So there. So can you tell me about your business love story? Tell me about your business love story. How you came about doing PGR Home Inspections.
How I came about it. So, again, I'm from Ohio. So when I was living up there, I've been around construction pretty much my entire life. But my background is mainly from the energy efficiency industry. Used to be an energy auditor. Used to work for our electric utility provider up in Ohio. But when I started getting into home inspection, I started doing it part-time before I jumped into it full-time. But just my passion for, home knowledge, obviously just started to grow and grow and grow, and I wanted to learn more about it. And, be able to help. I could see, how doing home inspections and helping, clients, educate them on their homes that, they're getting ready to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, the biggest investment of their lives. And, they're basically looking to me, to tell them about their biggest investment, right? Immense amount of responsibility, but it was exciting at the same time. So that's when I, decided, back when I was doing it part-time, I was like, man, I want to jump into this full-time. This is it's a fun career to be in. But at the time I was working for a multi-inspector firm. So again, when we decided to move, I was just like, I've been a manager in the past, and I didn't really want to feel, jumping into a new city. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I might as well just gonna start my own company from day one. Just jump right into it, right? And so that's where I decided to come up with my business name, PGR. A lot of people ask me, what does PGR stand for? Well, my last name is Richardson, so that's where the R comes from. My son, his name is Parker Gray, So PGR, that's his initials. And then once we had our daughter, we decided to, to avoid any, hostility later on in life. Potentially, it was like, well, let's give her the same initials as well. So then we had to sit down and figure out a girl name that was PG. So we came up with Perry Grace. So
Oh,
my name is Perry Grace, and my son's name is Parker Gray. So my wife actually came up with my logo.
nice.
I don't know if you can see it
I,
on camera here.
yeah,
But,
I love the palms.
what's that?
The palms. I don't think I ever noticed it was palms before.
Yeah, so we thought it was, very South Carolina-esque. So, we went with that, and, it's basically how I got started. So, haven't really looked back. I mean, there's been obviously ups and downs with, starting my own business, as, any business owner can say, but
Right.
everything, riding on my shoulders has just been, incredibly overwhelming, and I'm just excited about, being in this journey. So far so good.
So far, so good. That's awesome. Well, I know you're keeping busy right now. I mean, we're in the midst of the pandemic. I know we recently you sent out an email to us, I guess, your agents, your clients, letting us know all the precautions that you're taking, which I think is awesome. I mean, down from gloves to booties, the whole suit. I think that's great. Keep doing that. That's appreciated.
Yeah, got to be safe. I mean, especially with two little ones at home, I can't be too safe. And, so I've basically been the only person in our household that's basically been out of the house
Right.
since we've been on lockdown. I'm the one that goes to the stores and everything. So
Yeah,
if anybody's going to get sick, it's going to be me, but I'd rather it be that way than my kids and my wife. So,
for sure.
got to be safe. So, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So tell me, so PGR Home Inspections. I know one of the biggest reasons why I really was excited about having you come on is because people, one of the number one questions I get from buyers, especially maybe buyers who have purchased before and just like, oh, I know how this whole thing goes. I bought houses before. I'm good. People just really don't understand the importance of getting a home inspection, from new construction to the point where you're about to sell your home. I mean, there's just so many reasons to get a home inspection done on a home. So tell us a little bit, why, in a nutshell, is I guess as concise as you can. Tell us why people should get a home inspection.
In a nutshell, well, there's no secret that, a home has a lot of components, right? And as home inspectors, we're trained to locate defects that, the average person doesn't know about, especially around the low country. I mean, there's a lot of investors, there's a lot of flippers, they're not all bad. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about, investors and flippers, but, it's no secret that, a lot of them are try to just make the homes look pretty, right? So there can be a lot of defects and major issues that are not easily seen. Not again, if you're not trained to locate those things, you may be walking into a major money pit.
Yeah.
So having a home inspection, especially if you're on the buyer side, again, it just provides an opportunity to identify those major issues prior to you signing those all important closing papers.
Yeah.
The home inspection report can be used as a contingency with your contract with the seller. I mean, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, it's a stressful enough process as it is. And having a home inspection can help put your mind at ease, that you're making a sound investment, or again, maybe give you a sense of relief that you're dodging a bullet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically it in a nutshell on the buyer side.
Yeah.
But there's also the seller side of the home inspection. So say you are a person that's planning on putting your house in the market in the next coming months, consider getting a pre-listing inspection, which basically is an inspection prior to you listing your home. Again, same thing as, the buyer. It's the exact same type of inspection. I'm going to come in and try to identify, any potential major defects that you then, as the potential seller, can have addressed on your own time, which ultimately will save you time, potentially a lot of money because you can get multiple estimates from different contractors and save you a lot of stress,
For sure.
which in the long run will generally result in a smoother closing process once you actually are in contract. So
Most definitely, most
yep.
definitely. I totally agree with you on that. And I know my company, we actually offer a certified pre-owned home. And because we are living in the age where virtual showings are so important, I mean, what a great marketing tool it is for a seller to have a home inspection done as well as offer a home warranty to show this person, like, look, you may not want to come in my home. It's a very, dangerous time, if you're not taking precautions. And so to kind of limit that, how awesome is it to have a pre-listing inspection done? You combine that with the home warranty to show the person, look, this home is solid, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here's the pre-listing inspection, and here are the issues that we may have resolved because of it. And so I think that's really cool. I think some people are frightened to get a home inspection because they're thinking, if they're selling the home, they're like, oh my gosh, it's going to show us something terrible. But really, like you said, it saves them time, money, and having to guess.
Because I mean, more than likely, I mean, the buyer is going to get an inspection, so it's going to
Right.
come up anyways.
Anyway, yeah.
When at that point, you're going to have a very short time window to get those addressed. So that's where the potential for money savings comes into play. Because if that's the case, say for example, you have a crawl space and the inspection finds a major defect in the crawl. Well, now you have to find the first contractor that can get out there to address it. Well, it may be twice as more as another guy that just wasn't available at that time, but you have to do it. You know what I mean? So that's where these type of inspections come into play. And there, I don't hear a lot of the stories, but I have heard some where people getting pre-listed inspections and then they offer my report to the potential buyer, and sometimes the buyer will be like, oh, okay, well this is good with me.
Exactly.
I'm gonna forego my
Exactly.
own inspection. Boom, you guys are gonna move to the closing table
A
much
lot faster. Yes, I've had that happen. Yes, definitely, because it makes people feel really secure on what they're getting. Um, yeah, so I definitely always, especially now, that's one of the things I've really been marketing to my clients, and to let them know that that is definitely the way to go. But one thing that people kind of overlook is the new construction. I personally live in a new construction home. I know you do. It's like one of those things where, had I known years ago, in hindsight, well before I became a realtor, and to be honest, in my realtor's defense, he may have said something about it. I don't recall, but now that I'm in the business, I understand after a few years what people are seeing with these homes. And honestly, builders are just putting out these homes so fast. It's not even that they don't care all the time. It's really sometimes they're overlooking it. And so a home inspection is good.
Well, one thing that I always tell my clients when it comes to new construction is, I mean, you're absolutely right. These homes, I mean, there's new construction communities being built all over the low country. I mean, you can't drive down any street and not see a new neighborhood, right?
Right.
But what I always say is, the builders, they get the bad rap. Some builders get some bad rap sometimes, but at the same time, the builder is only good as its subcontractors,
Yes.
which is unfortunate. Yes, it's ultimately falls on their shoulders to ensure that things are done right. But again, they're just overloaded with work, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And things get overlooked, and that's when issues come about. I mean,
Definitely.
well, I'll talk about it, an example later, but when it comes to new construction. But yeah, totally agree.
So, as far as tips and tools for people to maintain their home, based on some of the things that you've seen, what are some things you would suggest people to keep an eye out for between even during the inspection part, maybe after they move in? Just what are some things that people need to really focus on maintaining and upkeep?
Um, Probably, I just wanted to focus on like two little tips here. One, first and foremost, not to neglect your home. It's amazing how many inspections I'll do that, homes that are less than 20 years old. And I mean, it's just amazing. I'll be there for 15 minutes and I just, know right off the bat that it's going to be a long inspection because you can just tell sometimes that the home has just been neglected. So one tip that I can give, especially if you have a home that has a lot of wood siding or wood trim, don't neglect it. periodically, just, when you're doing yard work or whatever, just, poke around on the bottom edges of the siding around your window trim. Look for any signs of rot or any signs of wood that's, where the paint's peeling, chipping away. That's where the wood becomes most vulnerable to moisture damage and ultimately rot.
Yeah.
So let's say, you go to end up selling your house and, you're neglecting that. Well, that's going to be flagged on an inspection. I can tell you right away.
For
And
sure.
most likely on the CL 100, the termite inspection, and you're going to have to address that. So the longer you let that type of stuff go, it can attract wood destroying insects like termites. And we have those like crazy around here, especially this time of year. So pay attention and make sure that those type of materials are painted and sealed to avoid potential costly repairs.
Right.
Next, especially if you have a crawl space, there's a lot of crawl spaces around the low country. If you physically can't get down into a crawl space yourself, hire somebody to go down there just to inspect it once or twice a year.
Yeah.
This is, when I'm doing inspections, this is generally where the biggest concerns and most costly repairs are found for the most part, because, especially on older homes, that's just a common area of the home that gets neglected. And if you have
Right.
leaks that have been occurring for years and years and years, well, then you have major rotted subfloor, rotted joists, and that stuff is really, really expensive to have replaced. So
Foundation important.
do not neglect that. So lastly, a good tip, if you're financially able to, consider getting a annual maintenance inspection. I do those. I know other inspectors do as well, where you have a professional like myself basically come in once or even biannually just to inspect your entire home. Because again, we're trained to look for certain things that the average person is not.
Right.
So we may be able to find some things that have occurred maybe after a storm or something that, we may be able to bring to your attention to get addressed before it gets, really, really bad. So
For
that's
sure.
a couple tips I can give you guys.
That's some really good advice, Adam. Thank you for that. And it's something that people do forget about. I know right now during this the times that we're experiencing, Lowe's and Home Depot is packed because people are trying to do home improvements. So if you have anything in the home that you're interested in working on and you just don't know where to start, calling Adam would be a great thing to do because maybe he can help you prioritize some things that may be more important than others. And some general maintenance from using a contractor to maybe some simple DIY stuff that you kind of take care of. But Adam can really help point you in the right direction of that. And I think that's a really good point you made. So
Absolutely.
thanks. And then I would like to follow up with the tips that you gave. Those amazing tips. Can you tell us a couple of things that you found interesting while doing home inspections, some things that just some interesting stories. I know for me, I can say the most interesting one I've had with you still is the one where we found bullet holes.
Bullet. I was
Yeah.
wondering if you were going to say that.
Yeah, bullet holes in the roof. I wasn't sure if that was one, but I remember that one. Probably from somebody shooting a gun up in the air, and of course the bullet, landed in the roof.
It's funny. I have it on my desk.
Oh, you still have it?
There it is.
Oh my God.
Yep. So, yeah, that was found in the roof of one of the homes I was expecting for one of your clients. Yeah. So.
Wow.
That's,
That all.
so that's one example. That's definitely an interesting story.
Yeah.
Don't find bullets that often. But one example I was one to save till now
Yeah.
in regards to new construction. So I do a lot of 11-month warranty inspections. So in regards to new construction, so every new construction property will come with a 1-year builder warranty,
Right.
and around the 11-month mark, people will call me in, because then I'm a third party basically to come and inspect their home and look for any issues that may not have been caught or addressed during the initial build. So I had one the other day. It was just last week actually, where inspecting everything, and I use thermal imaging during my inspections at no additional cost. It's a high quality thermal imaging camera that allows me to detect issues in insulation issues, moisture issues, electrical issues, stuff like that, things that aren't easily seen with the naked eye.
Uh-huh.
And I was scanning this guy's living room, and his entire great room had no insulation. From the attic, you weren't able to see this area very well unless you like
Oh,
literally kind of grinded yourself underneath the ductwork and platform that they had up there. And
no.
so I was like, okay, well, I have to get back up in the attic just to confirm this. And sure, I did, and grinded myself underneath the ductwork and got myself all dirty. But I was like, I got to see this with my own two eyes. And sure enough, he was missing probably about 500 square feet of ceiling space, just no insulation. Well, not even an inch of it. It was crazy.
Wow.
So he was really shocked and surprised when I showed him that. He's like, you know, you're going to be really happy that you had this inspection because they owe you probably about $500-600 worth of insulation.
Yes.
And so that was one. You know, that's just a perfect example of new, you know, things that can go wrong during a new construction um, uh, build. You know, granted, most things in new construction aren't as severe as you know, an older home, but there are important things like that.
Uh,
Other than that, I mean, probably the most surprising things I found have definitely been in crawl spaces.
okay.
I mean, I've been in one. I was in one a few months ago. It was might have been more like 6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
Got in there. The rest of the house was in pretty good shape. I usually always do the crawl spaces last. I got down there and it was literally raining from the subfloor. I mean, there was so much moisture
What?
where it was literally. I mean, there wasn't probably a, even 1 square foot of subfloor that was not just literally soaking wet. And come to find out that afterwards, the realtor told me that the seller ended up having to invest about $40,000 worth of work
Whoa.
into new subfloor, new joist,
Where,
vapor barrier, ductwork.
where
I
was
mean,
the water coming from?
um, issues with the ductwork. Very,
Oh, so
very, very,
moisture is kind of running through there.
very poor ventilation. So there was issues with ventilation in the crawl space. This was a perfect candidate for full-on encapsulation
Whoa.
crawl space. There were a couple leaks, no vapor barrier, and probably 75% of the crawl. Um, this particular home was surrounded by a lot of trees, so I mean, it was just a wide variety of different variables
Moisture
that
everywhere.
ultimately just added up to a lot of moisture down the crawl. But that was the most moisture I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
It,
Was it like wet, like squishy, or was it like mildew or both?
oh no, I mean, it was literally looked like just water droplets just waiting to fall down onto the.
Whoa.
It was crazy. Yeah. So there was a lot of mold. You know, and mold in crawl spaces eventually makes its way into your house, indoor air quality issues, health issues. And those are all type of things that I try to bring to, you know, your attention during the inspection. And fortunately for me, I'm not a very big guy, so I use that to my advantage to try to get the small little nooks and crannies in
Yeah.
the car. I mean, there's been literally area times where I'm having to grind on the dirt on my belly, and
Wow.
my back is grinding underneath a piece of duct work. So I'll get into some tight areas. So, but those are just a couple things.
Man, I thought, it's been a couple of years. That's true. You've been maintaining your size pretty good because I definitely, you
I
definitely
bought something small. I use it to my advantage, like I said. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so man, you gave us some really good tips, and I look forward to sharing this the podcast, and maybe even sharing this as YouTube videos as quick tips to kind of, because it was such a helpful podcast of information. It'd be nice to break it up and maybe share it that way for my viewers. Um, I know you're a faith-based man, which is pretty awesome. We found out after meeting that we actually attend the same church.
Mhm.
That's when your church is huge, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Quite
so,
large.
right. So do you have anything? I know you're a pretty, in my opinion, definitely a glass half full kind of person. So is there anything you want to leave our guests with, any inspiration, any encouragement, especially during this time?
Yeah, I mean, so strictly speaking about home inspections, of course,
Right.
there's a lot of different inspectors that you can choose from out there. And, again, there's, in regards to the home buying process in general, again, like I mentioned before, it can be extremely stressful, especially for the first time home buyer, when you're out there, doing all the house hunting, document submission to your lender, maybe you're getting cold feet. Choosing the right inspector, is a very, very important decision. Don't take it lightly. In my opinion, having a home inspection should be the first investment that you make in your home. Again, some people think, oh, I don't really need to do it, or this is just another step in the process, so let me go out there and just try to find the cheapest guy on the market to save me, $50 or $100 or whatever it may be, which in my opinion, that's the ultimate wrong way of thinking. Like the old saying goes, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
There are people out there that are doing inspections for $199, and, I haven't seen their work firsthand, but from feedback I've received from people, these type of inspectors are going to be spending an hour in your home, inspecting the roof from the ground. And if you're lucky, maybe they'll peek in the crawl space from the access door. In my opinion, that's not how you're best serving your client. And you're definitely not going to find all the issues, especially if you're inspecting from the roof from the ground. I hear that one all the time.
Yeah.
Mind blowing to me. But anyways, I just, I don't know about you, like, but if I'm spending spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a home, again, the biggest investment you're going to make, I'm going to want a little more than that. So, my advice to you guys, choose an inspector that pays attention to detail, and ultimately has, your best interest at heart. Someone with experience and know-how, and whose ultimate goal is to educate you on, your big purchase. Like we mentioned before, somebody that, reports the way that he or she would like to receive a report. Obviously I'm talking about me in this scenario.
Right.
But, somebody that's just wanting to be an asset to you and available to talk and answer your questions. And, I can't tell you how many times I've spent, 2 to 3 hours on the phone days after, weeks after with, previous clients answering questions, just until they're comfortable or satisfied with a certain, defect or anything like that. So that's what, that would be my biggest advice for you guys. Don't take, the selection of your inspector, lightly. So that's all I got for you.
Well, that was helpful. That was very helpful and very enlightening, and something that people need to know. Be reassured of. I've had one person tell me somebody they work with could just come inspect the house, and they were comfortable with the person they work with who was familiar with home improvement to come and inspect the house. And ultimately, I, as a realtor, I cannot I cannot tell them no. That's their choice. I've even had people that wanted to not go, did not want to even have a home inspection. So I'm appreciative that you actually would share that and the perspective of how important that is.
Yeah, I hear that all the time, and it's amazing that, people go, oh yeah, I'll just use my uncle or my brother's friend, is in construction. He's wanting to come and look at it. It's like, can't make anybody do anything, but like just hypothetical situation. Like, well, let's say, he misses something, or his knowledge is limited in a certain area of the home, right? And, next thing they move in and boom, they gotta get a contractor out to replace something that costs, tens of thousands of dollars. Like, that's going to be an issue, potential lawsuit waiting to happen, or, relationships, just damage. You know what I mean? It's like, was it really worth, saving $300-400 maybe, to go through all that? In my opinion is always going to be no. So,
especially, it does happen. It does happen.
Crazy.
Well, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge. And for those of you out there listening, in the show notes, we'll have Adam's contact information, and you can definitely reach out with him. He has a way that you can schedule online, so that's pretty cool. definitely his contact. You can call, email. He's really responsive and super quick with his responses, and from what I've experienced. So definitely check Adam out, PGR Home Inspections. He is a top-notch home inspector, so give him a call.
Yep, I appreciate it. Yeah, like you said, www.pgrhomeinspections.com. There's an online scheduling tool on there. You can use that tool to even just look up a quote if you're interested in just how much something would be. You don't have to, actually schedule something.
Nice.
And there's other information on my site, maintenance tips and things like that, and just information about home inspections in general. So check me out. There's a contact form on there, but yeah, you can text me. My number's on there. Like she said, I'm very, very responsive. Usually I'll get back with you within a minute or two. Kind of my thing. So
That's what we love to hear. That's what we love to hear. So thank you again, Adam. Thank you for checking us out.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you have just listened to the 17th episode of the Charleston Real Estate Connection podcast. I'm your host, Nia Joy, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Adam Richardson of PGR Home Inspections. Check us out on your favorite platform for listening to podcasts. We will see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
See you. Stay golden and stay safe. This has been another episode of the Charleston Real Estate Connection podcast. You can find us on our website at charlestonreconnection.com. That's charlestonreconnection.com.